Now I can hear you. Now I can see you as well. How are you?
Great. All good your side?
All good. Enjoying myself. First of all, thank you so much for taking out time and
Pleasure.
giving us a pleasure of sharing and hearing your experiences on this piece.
Sure.
Okay, awesome. This topic is actually very near to me as well. And
Oh,
we
okay.
all know, right, this data is something, well, data was at back foot for years. Since
Yes.
couple of
Yes.
years and few years, I would say it has come into a front foot, and
Yes, correct.
and people were not planning the because this data valuation, value proposition comes from internally. Vendors always comes and they try to sell it. That's day one. But now it is
Agreed.
internal team's job to create a data value proposition for businesses and stakeholders and get
Correct.
buy-in. So, okay, I think let's start with it. I will open the floor for you actually. Like, let's start with this.
Okay.
What is data value proposition and how it is crucial for businesses nowadays?
Fantastic. So it was interesting when you asked me that when you started off with that question, I actually thought, well, I'm using a lot of the marketing way of speaking. What is your value proposition and business architecture? And I thought it's interesting to see if any of the major vendors have been talking about data value proposition. And the one I came across was from Gartner, and they had a really nice presentation on, you know, how do you complete your data strategy, data analytics strategy with a clear value proposition? So what is it that you're presenting? What promise are you presenting to the organization? Um, and so I did quite a bit of reading, and they've categorized it in three areas, which are very interesting. The first one is what they call a utility value data value proposition. And they talk about a utility as a car or a train or whatever it is. And basically they summarize that by saying, we will provide you with all the data, with the platform that you need, the access to the data as quickly as possible. And if there's a new piece of data you require, we'll get it. If it's not there today, we'll get it for you tomorrow. So that's they refer to it as a utility data value proposition. The next one, which is what I've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years in my data strategy, is what they call an enabler data value proposition. So, how do I enable you to achieve what you need to do in your business in any area? So, we would break it up into the different business departments and we would understand what their challenges are. We would do a SWOT analysis and then say, okay, these are the things that you've raised with me. And this is how I believe we can address your challenges, how I can enable you, which is a nice way to do it, but it requires you to have a really good understanding of business and to deliver spot on to what is it that's required. So a simple example is if the marketing people are battling with campaigns and conversion rates, how do we convert all the money that we spend into sales? And those conversion rates can be pretty low. I don't know if you've had some experience on that, but I mean, you could sometimes they're happy with a 3-4% conversion rate. Okay. That when I saw it the first time, I was like, that is bad for the amount of money that you spent. And the last one, they talk about an innovation, a driver value proposition, and that's where we would use data, AI, technology to drive the business into new areas of growth, of development, to deliver them with new insights so that they change and they can adopt new approaches. And I must admit, I've been involved with three innovation hubs from different companies, and most of them have failed. Because it comes across the business say, find us new insight.
Yeah.
And
What is
there
that
go the
insight?
data scientists, and they go and try and do stuff, and it's like, yeah, okay, but it doesn't really answer our question. That's not really we're interested in. And the one that really struck me, Mustafa, was we built this, and then someone said, this has tremendous political impact, and this is too dangerous.
I've seen
So
that.
spend
I've
it's
seen
just
that.
like, why didn't we start talking to you from the beginning and then be more task oriented in terms of what you want so that I can deal with it and not just send me away and I'll come back with some nice ideas. So that's where where Gartner has put it forward. And then right at the end, which I found very interesting, is they said, don't think that you're going to choose one of the three. You're possibly going to choose multiple. So it could probably be a utility approach where you're trying to give them as much access to data as possible, and then an enabler, or you're going to be doing an enabler and an innovative one. But that utility one scares me, because how much data does the organization have, and how much do I need to work to get all of this exposed to them? I mean, if you think of the traditional BI departments, how many of them are running with backlogs? And the business say you can't deliver, you're not delivering fast enough, I'll bring my own BI people in.
Yeah.
So there's some challenges there in terms of delivering on this value proposition.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Actually, I have seen this many a times. When we talk about data, right, and to dig out value from the data, and now
Yeah,
this data is becoming so huge. The other day, I was
yeah,
in a conversation with someone, and after that, I wrote that my last post as well, that data might not be possible to dig out value from the data. We have to move towards the metadata, because metadata becomes more and more important, because you will have tons of terabytes of petabytes of data.
right,
You
right.
can't go in and start digging out. So actually, metadata is also a data. We all know that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it is one of the most crucial part. But going
Yeah,
inside the raw data will become more and more difficult. So
yeah.
so relating to that, right? This is marketing capability. You touch base marketing as well, right? How important is this marketing capabilities with respect to this data value proposition?
Right. So I've started to uh, try to coin a new role within the data organization, and I call it the data value architect. That person that's going to design and plan about the value of data. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, one of the things I've learned in the last 3 months, I've just completed a marketing analytics course with one of the universities. And part of it was to help me understand how to apply marketing within my own business. So it's a big challenge we're having in terms of how to set up these communities and brands and stuff like that. So I said, shucks, I've got to be a lot more formal about my study. Then took on this marketing analytics. And as I learned about marketing analytics, I realized that the true value architects in a business are the marketing people,
Hmm.
because they are the ones that have to ensure that products meet the customer requirements. I mean, who's talking to the customer about their needs and pains and gains? Who's talking? It's not the architect, the business architect, it's the marketing people. And they use tremendous amount of data to understand this, to validate it. So they are the value architects.
Mhm.
Now we have to take their techniques and the ways of doing things and establish a data value architect, someone who's going to plan for and ensure that we deliver value to the business and any of our stakeholders.
So
So,
yeah. So when you say this data value architect, when you coin this
yeah,
architect word, right? Because all of us connect architect as a technical person
Yes, correct.
who knows how the solution is designed, not
Correct.
implemented, but designed, right?
Yes.
Because it can be Azure, it can be Google, it can be
Yeah.
AWS, anything, right? So all dollar value maps with the value generation, right? So
Yes.
when you say this data value architect, are you saying a person who is good in talking data stories, plus who knows backend architecture as well? Are you referring to that?
Okay, so I've sort of got a list of what I find is very critical, a skill set for a data value architect. First one is business acumen. So they're business literate and they can go and talk to people, talk to the business people and understand the business challenges and understand how to talk ROI, business objectives, business goals, and things like that. Then the next one, I referred to it as almost marketing acumen or marketing literacy, as when I elicit an understanding of what jobs I need to enable the business to do with data. I need to talk to them about their pains. I need to talk to them about their gains. I need to talk to them about the emotional state that they're in and the social consequences of not delivering. So, simple example, when I talk to a data executive, they need to build a data strategy. And then you talk to them about what are the functional pains that you experience on building a data strategy. And we see so many of them actually are trying to get involved with technology. They're not understanding the challenges that the business have with data. And so they're mixing up data management strategies with data strategies. So they're not clear on what do they need to focus on when they build these data strategies. And then what's the pain of being able to do it? Getting everybody around the table to agree on what's the right data strategy for an organization. So one of the failures I had, Mustafa, was I was asked to set up a data strategy for an organization. I didn't clearly understand the operating model, and it was very replicated or distributed. It was broken up into silos. And I was trying to get these people to tell me a data strategy for the organization. And they looked at me and they said, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not really that interested in talking about a group data strategy. Come and talk to me about my data strategy and how you need to help me." Different story. But this thing of building everyone together, they just couldn't see how it worked. So those are sort of emotional pains and pains that they experience. And then the emotional one would be, can I actually deliver this thing? Now we've got these, they talk about those BHAGs, those big, hairy, ambitious goals. Fantastic. I've elicited all this stuff, but do I have the people to deliver on this thing? So now in the background, I'm thinking, I've gone through all of this setting expectations and stuff like that, but can I deliver? And if I don't deliver, what is the consequence of that? Well, maybe I'm no longer the CDO after 2 years of trying to get this thing to work and we just don't deliver. Now, understanding those challenges that our business face, okay, that's what marketing people have learned to do. And we need to learn to have those conversations and elicit that, they call them trigger questions. How do I trigger that feedback? How do I get a reliable feedback from the people that are my customers that I need to serve and deliver value to?
Yeah, actually, it is very exciting what you have brought up, right? And it is also very, very much related to me. So what we are saying is normally last time we had this centralized approach, right? Lake
Yeah.
house and warehouse. We
Mm.
went towards a federated approach where we say,
Yes.
hey, let's give everyone their own warehouse or data mart,
Correct.
own their lake
Yes.
house, or a data mesh as well in that perspective, right? But
Yes.
you are absolutely right, right? That is where we all get lost as whenever we go
Yes.
talk to someone, we hardly talk to their pain area, we talk to the enterprise. that
That's
okay,
right.
we build a data strategy at an enterprise level, and the person is least interested. He always is
Yes.
interested to hear how you will solve my problem.
Yes.
So that is where I
Yes.
think is so beautiful when you raised it, that data value architect, that when he's talking to business, he should talk only business. But when he
Correct.
design, he look at the enterprise level. Both
That's
should
right.
not conflict, right? That is
Yeah.
correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong, if I'm going in the right direction.
Yeah, and one of the skills I've raised, they call it, and it's they talk about architects as well. They call it an alchemist, almost somebody that mixes these things together. So he's going to talk individually, then he's going to bring it back, and he's going to now start mixing all of these different things together to deliver the solution without building it himself or starting from the beginning or whatever it is. How does he get this thing to work? Um, and that goes almost to the sort of point um, where I started looking a lot at real world examples, Mustafa, about uh, show me where we've achieved success. And there's been some amazing success stories, but I think the one that really brings the point home is Spotify. Okay.
Mm.
Now, Spotify, I don't know if you've seen their last results, but last week, how's that? They announced their first annual profit since inception. The first annual profit. How long have they been around? And this is the first time they've made an annual profit. And when I saw that, it took me back to understanding business models and recognizing that it's not just about the revenue that you gain, but it's about the number of customers you got on your platform. It's about usage, exposure, and all these different type of things. So lots of times we evaluate a good company by their profits, and that's not always the case. But if we look at the results of Spotify, they talk about the fact that uh, they are 30% higher than their closest competitor, which is Apple Music. They are 30% higher, and they've maintained these gains for many years. Apple's really just come onto the scene, and they continue, even with these new people coming on, they continue to outstretch or outperform their competitors by orders of magnitude. And one of the things that they had an interesting metric is that as a Spotify user, they engage 61 times per month with the platform, whereas Apple, it's 12 times as much. So the ability to get the engagement going with the audience, with their people, is pretty amazing as to what they're doing. And as I read more into that and also understanding marketing, it's about this, or what they call hyper personalization. So
Mm.
marketing used to talk a lot about personas. Let's segment our market, develop the personas. And then someone said, this is great. It's better than the way we used to do it, of let's think of a product and let's try to just sell the hell out of it, sell it like crazy. Let's build the personas, talk to them, see what their requirements are, and create a product that meets their needs. Now, Spotify have gone in the other, they've taken that to another level where those recommendations is purely based on you.
Mm.
Okay. And now if you look at the number of people they have on their platform, I think it was 38 million that are using it actively, and the amount of content in terms of the number of songs and the amount of time that they listen to it, they have orders of magnitude bigger than Netflix and Apple and areas like that. Now, a lot of their success has been around their value proposition, and they label it like this: discover the music you never knew.
Mm.
Okay, so it's all about recommendations. You're listening to this, what about this? You're listening to this, have you thought of this? Now it's Sunday afternoon. What about listening to this type of music? So they're using all of these different analytics techniques, from predictive to prescriptive to uh, cognitive analytics to come up with new ideas for you to discover new music, and that's what keeps you engaged. So I loved the infographics, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. So then I went into some of the engineering. I don't know if you've seen Spotify engineering, the whole blog, the whole website on Spotify engineering. And I then looked at all of the technology that they're using and their approaches. And one of the things I realized is there's the ability for them to automate their creative. So I'm not sure if you're aware of the fact that all of the adverts, all of the awareness campaigns, the acquisition of customers is all automated. They
Yeah.
don't, they do not have enough marketing people to keep up with customizing the message for the people and all those type of things. So they've automated it all. And you can see the challenges they face. As an example, it's no use them taking data from America in terms of how the content is performing and then trying to sell it in Saudi Arabia or Dubai. Okay, so the desires of the region and what appeals to the Arabs doesn't appeal to the Americans, and vice versa. And so their level of customization is no longer at a high demographic type of thing. It's right down to the detailed individuals where they're generating ads that make sense to the people and make sense to what's happening now, what events. So sure, when you look at that level of personalization, it's next level. It's something that you didn't think was possible.
Absolutely. Actually, that covers our next question is about it was about customer journey. What are the key steps for the
Yes,
customer journey, right?
yes,
For this data value proposition. I give you an example, right? It is amazing, right? Normally, sometime what happens while sleeping, we put up some music, right, on YouTube
yes,
here and there at night time, and we put up
yeah,
some soothing music, right? There are
yes,
videos. Now what
yes, yes,
happens?
correct.
Now what happens? Now if I go every night, some night, and I turn on my YouTube, automatically all soothing musics are there.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
have to search. Now
yeah, yeah,
they know my sleeping pattern, and they
yes,
know at this time this guy sleeps and he finds this.
yes,
So they come up with, so it's amazing, right? So the customer journey
yes,
is not again, well, last time it was public marketing campaigning, then it went towards the categorize
correct.
campaigning. Now it is very individual, right? So
Yes,
what
yes.
are the key steps if you can share
Okay,
to do this kind of,
right.
campaigning?
Now, there's one of the things I've learned is there's almost two forms of customer journey. The first form that you're dealing with is what they call brand or customer acquisition. Okay, so what is the journey of a customer making a decision to buy your product? And
Hmm.
that's the one that drives marketing the most in terms of how do I get new customers onto the platform, especially if that with the previous discussion on what makes money, what makes Spotify attractive. So that's where they spend a lot of time. So it's basically making people aware. Then the next step is doing research, then making the decision, then giving them support, and then closing the product down. Now that's the typical customer journey, but it's very generic and I don't get that excited about it other than, of course, attracting more customers. But the one that I like is almost maturity based or individual based, where what we're saying is as you're progressing through your career, as an example. So we do training. So for us, the customer journey is about knowing where you are. If you just come out of university or if you're doing university, what are your challenges that you're facing right now? And then coming out of university and going into an intern position, what are the challenges you're facing there? How do you differentiate yourself? How do I enable you to learn more and improve what you do? And every single step, all the way to Mustafa, like me, you're coming to retirement age. Not you, but I see so many of my friends in Damer chapters. They're coming to retirement age and say, Howard, what do we do now? How do I go and rebrand or remarket myself? Uh, after 60, 62, when they say you're no longer eligible to be a full-time employee, how do you rebrand yourself? So many people are asking questions at different levels, at different times of their career, and you almost need to pull this thing together. Now, when I started thinking about data, well, what's the data maturity path? And data maturity can go from raw data, information, knowledge, and wisdom. Okay, so there's a growth. And what I like to do in my data strategy is to say, okay, if I link the data to the business value chain that delivers a value proposition, what is the state of the data along each one of these stages, and how can I lift it up? So yes, I've got raw data assets, but how do I change it into information? How do I add more analytics to make it knowledge? How do I add more analytics to make it wisdom that gives the business people more insights and more understanding? Now, so there's almost like a customer journey for data. Okay, I can look at all of my assets and I can see how am I going to progress you all that you're giving more value, more understanding. But then there's also what I refer to as a data office maturity and AI maturity. So we talk about going from traditional BI, and they refer to that as descriptive analytics. How do we then progress to predictive analytics? And how do we go from predictive to prescriptive, and from prescriptive to cognitive analytics? So there's another maturity journey that lots of data and analytics departments or offices need to go through. How do we take them through that? And now I'm thinking, well, this is nice, but how do I apply that to a business department? And one of the techniques that I've been using a lot is to say, all of these analytics are there to enable the business to answer the 5 questions. What has happened? So in the last period, okay, what has happened? And BI is good at that. So it will tell you, you had so much revenue, you lost 20 customers, you gained 20 customers. And if you bring that to a business performance rating or a ratio, then it's, well, did I overachieve on my budget? Did I underachieve? Did I meet my targets? Then the question is, well, why did I underachieve? Why did I overachieve? So that's what they refer to as descriptive analytics. Then you go to predictive analytics to say, well, if I continue on this rate, when will I reach my target, or when will I go out of business? Okay, if I keep going down like this, when do I stop? When do I close the doors? Okay, so there's that. That's what predictive is doing. And then prescriptive is to say, well, now that I understand this, what should I do to change? What should I do to go faster? What can I do to go slower, or whatever it is? How can I retard this thing? So it's what they call operations research. What are the set of possibilities that I have to improve where I'm going? And then the last question talks about, what don't I know? It's almost that story of blockbusters not recognizing where the market was going. And so they kept on doing the same thing, and they never asked themselves the question, well, what is it that I don't know? So we can make use of analytics to answer the 5 business questions, and every business should be asking themselves these 5 questions all the time. And you can't jump a question. So you can't go and start at what should I do when I don't know what's happened, why did it happen, and when am I going to reach the target?
Yeah, so in this whole thing, right, I bring back your data value architect who
Yeah.
knows the business, who
Yes.
knows how descriptive and predictive and
Yes. Correct.
all these things works. That is
Yes.
where this person talks to the business on their domain level, not
Yes.
on a technology level, right?
100%.
Right.
100%.
So now coming
Is
towards the challenges. So okay,
right.
I'll put myself onto the spot. I'm
Yes.
from a technical background, right? I
Yes.
try to go into this role. Let's call it data value architect, as you mentioned.
Right. Right. Right.
What are the challenges I will face when I go to a business
Okay.
and try to get buy-in of this data value,
Okay.
a data solution to them, right? I have to sell it to
Right.
the customer. What are the challenges I will face?
Okay, so the biggest challenge I've experienced, Mustafa, is that we try to build one value proposition for all our stakeholders.
Hmm.
No, that's wrong. That doesn't work anymore. Same way as Spotify can no longer work at a one-level genre, we can't work at a one-level stakeholder. Everybody needs to have this data. Everybody needs to do it the way I see it happening. So if you look at typical business architects, like an industry reference model for healthcare, you're talking about 60 or 70 stakeholders.
Hmm.
Okay, now my challenge is if I'm talking about personalizing the stakeholder, I'm talking about 60 or 70 value propositions.
Hmm.
Am I going to get them to all work and work across departments and to understand all of these different value propositions, and then to make sure that, let's say I come and talk to you, I'm the value architect, and then 2 weeks later they listen to the CDO talking and we're talking different languages. So we're saying different things. How do we communicate our value proposition consistently, simply that the business understand it and to meet their requirements, to talk to their problems and the challenges that they're facing and not technology. So I've got a requirement to personalize my value proposition. I've got to make sure it meets their requirements and deals with their issues. Otherwise, it's, you know what, Howard, you're asking me to spend money on you, and I don't buy it. I don't buy that you're going to give me this return on investment that you're talking about because I don't see it.
Yeah, so do we need to, as a data value architect, do we need to bring some real world examples as well? Does
Yes.
that helps?
So I certainly, you know, it came almost 4 or 5 years back, Mustafa, where I do these, I go to many customers and I do a data strategy and I use this technique called SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And after the second one, I realized every single time I talk to them, they only talk about one thing, and that's the W, the weakness.
Hmm.
That's whenever I get in there, I spend hours and they're just telling me about all their problems and stuff like that. And I did all sorts of stuff to say, okay, let me do a data maturity assessment first, so we don't need to discuss all of these problems when I'm talking about your SWOT analysis. And then it's a case of, so what I really want to talk to them is about, do you know the opportunities of data? And it's like, no. And so what I've learned is I have to give them examples of how other people have done and used data to change their lives. Now they start to see the opportunities. And
Hmm.
the nice thing about that is I use not just success stories, but failures to be able to say, so it's the O and the T, the opportunities and the threats that will get them thinking about the fact that we need to pay attention to this. And if we don't do this, we're gonna have some challenges. Okay, so using a real world case study like the Netflix blockbuster. So I'm saying, guys, if you don't pay attention to what's happening in the market, you can be the next blockbuster. So that's the negative side. And then it goes over to all of these streaming platforms, and we can see how these streaming platforms are coming and going because they're all trying to compete at this level of proposition or streaming stuff, but then they can't get the return that Spotify, and they can't compete with Spotify. So who was it that gave up their stuff to YouTube? I think it was Amazon. They were trying to get into the music and they gave it up and they moved it onto YouTube. They created YouTube Music. So there's those failures and successes, and you need to be able to explain what caused it, what were their challenges from a data point of view, and to see how that works.
Hmm. Awesome. So let's summarize this piece. Actually, you have given me a lot of good ideas. To summarize, what we are saying is when you take your proposition, you have to have a target audience first. You need to understand their,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Secondly, if there are 5 stakeholders in front of you, your value proposition should be for 5, not for holistic.
100%.
Then,
100%.
as a data value person, you need to be data value architect. You need to understand the technology as well. So
Right.
when you are understanding this pain area and trying to build a solution, so you solve their problem, but you build an enterprise solution.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then we come up with the examples. When we go and talk to them, we give them relevant examples, not for the success factors or success stories, also the failures that if you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
it, this is what's going to happen. This is the wall you're going
100%.
right?
Yeah.
So just to
Right.
summarize this whole piece into a nutshell, that these are the things. So
And just there's a question that you asked that I spent several days thinking about, and that's the future trends of you used to talk about future trends. Now, when I looked at the Gartner value proposition, that was that utility means I got every data, all the data, and then you go and then you take that, and then I did some research on a company called Build AI, and they are actually using AI to build data products. Okay, so a user can sit there and tell the system, oh, I need this, I need that, whatever it is, and it builds a data product for you using machine learning and all the metadata. So it needs very rich metadata to say, to make this decision, you need this critical data element, that one, that one, that one, and it designs the integration and it builds the orchestration flow and it builds it to you. Now, if we take the Spotify one where they are able to hyper-personalize, you could almost get to a point where you're building value propositions per individual or decision makers within the organization. Okay, so you can ratchet this thing up to a point where, oh, shucks, I need to make this important decision now. So I never spoken about it before. I haven't gone to the data office and I don't have another data strategy. How do I now operate at the scale that we're seeing some of these people are operating at? So there's a really exciting development that's coming along and again, we all have to be careful of thinking, oh, AI is going to take away the programmers and the developers and stuff like that. There's always that underlying engineering that's happening to enable faster delivery. But wow, just to have Spotify achieve some of those challenges where they've completely automated all their creative for all their copy that they write for ads, they got that out. So can we be doing that for our business people where we listen to them, we understand their value and the proposition, and we build them data products that meet their requirements? And Mustafa, think of a business architecture. I don't know if you've done the capability map on a business architecture. You could be talking at levels 1, 2, and 3. You could be talking in the region of 500, 600 jobs to be done, 600 jobs that need to be delivered across the organization. So can we get our data products to meet those 600 requirements? And how quickly can we get there?
And that can only be done by a person who knows front end and back end both.
100%. Yeah.
That is where now so-called data people like me, who were never in the limelight, sitting at the back end of writing a queries, I am hopeful these people will come on front foot now, not in far future, very soon. I'm just hoping that is where value can come in. Again, thank you so much, Howard. Thanks for taking out time. Pleasure
Thank you, sir.
Catch you. And we are in October, our panelists call is again happening, which we normally do.
Great.
I'm looking forward to catch you over there as well.
Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, bye.